Hey folks, uh, it's time to learn some stuff. In 1906, a year after the province of Alberta joined the Canadian Federation, motor vehicles were required to be registered. Here's a quick map of 1905 here. A lot of portions of Canada are still the Northwest Territories. That's kind of how it started. The top of Alberta and Saskatchewan, they prior to 1905 were still part of the Northwest Territories. Manitoba, you can see, still is, and parts of Ontario, parts of Quebec. Newfoundland is not a part of Canada yet. That doesn't happen until, like, God. Those guys, they held out forever, man. Till, like, the 90s. Here's a picture of Edmonton. Anyway, the way it worked with licensing when it started was the province of Alberta assigned each registered vehicle a number, but it was the responsibility of the vehicle owner to display the number on their car. Generally, what they would do is paint it on the back, or oftentimes they would commission like a leather plate to be made, just like a little leather tag with a number on it. Sometimes the number was made of brass or other metals. Often they were house numbers, or sometimes the letters were just made of leather. It was pretty popular to use leather tags, well, by most of North America in the early 20th century as licensing became popular. From what I've read, there's a lot of fakes out there with these things, so if you're interested in collecting these, be careful, because it's not difficult to find old chunks of leather and old numbers, right? Everything's period correct, and then just hammering them together and then charging a premium saying it's an old leather plate. I ran across a story on, I don't know, a few different sources of this fella named Joseph Morris. He was a businessman and a career politician who owned the first car in Edmonton, a 1903 Model A Ford. Legend has it that he was assigned the registration number 1 and was subsequently taken to court because he had used a broomstick as his license plate. Now, he argued that his broomstick was in the shape of a 1 and was therefore an acceptable means of representing his registration when affixed to the rear of his car. Now, the problem with this story is that I get conflicting versions of how the court case turned out. Some stories say that he was successful in arguing that his broomstick satisfied the legal requirements at the time. But then the Wikipedia entry for Joseph Morris, I fucked all this up. But the Wikipedia entry for Joseph Morris says the court issued him a leather license plate with the number 1. Now, I'm not really sure what happened, and it is a fun story. I like it. I'd love to believe that some guy thumbed his nose at the government a little bit and got to keep his broomstick on the back of his car. But this alleged court battle seems to have taken place in 1905, but from what I can tell, the province didn't officially begin assigning registration numbers to motor vehicles until 1906. Furthermore, since prior to 1912, Albertans were required to make their own license tags, I suspect the court had neither the means nor the authority to assign Mr. Morris any replacement plate. At best, they could have ordered him to make something more suitable. Prior to 1940, Alberta was pretty sparsely populated and didn't have very much wealth. Hadn't hit an oil boom here yet. It was mostly rural. It was just homesteaders for the most part and ranchers. So therefore, examples of license plates from back then are really difficult to find because people basically thought of them as garbage, and it was an unusual thing to have to register a motor vehicle, right? This stuff was all new to them. Yeah, it's tough to find them. They basically just chucked them away. They got replaced every year. There was no reason to hold on to them. People probably didn't have any sentimental attachment to them. In 1912, about 2,240 motor vehicles were issued license plates. These were made of porcelain enameled iron and expired at the end of the year. That's right, on December 31st, your registration expired. This continued in 1913, but with new colors, and they added the shield on the left-hand side here, you can see. The physical design of the plates in 1914 changed, as well as the colors. The numbers were now silkscreened onto a thin piece of painted sheet metal and then rolled over a wire frame. And with that, at long last, that brings us to my pride and joy, the purpose of this video. My very own, authentic, 1914 license plate. Look at this thing. I mean, I don't know if it's very valuable, but I know it's very rare, and I think it's cool. I don't really care what it's worth. To me, it's worth a lot. This is a cool piece of history. It's over 100 years old, and this was probably one of the last issues one of the last ones issued in 1914, because I'm guessing there weren't that many more cars than this. And yeah, it's, as near as I can tell, this is totally authentic. It doesn't seem to be a reproduction at all. It's described exactly as the history books say. This is silk screened on here, painted, and it's a thin sheet metal bent over a wire frame. So somebody reproduced this. Well, kudos to them. But yeah, I don't think this seems like the legit deal to me. And it's got some holes drilled in it. Maybe that's how it was mounted at one time. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is kind of cool. So it's a little bit of an oddball size compared to modern plates. It's 4.5 inches tall, and let's see how long it is here. It's just a smidgen over 10 inches long. So it's kind of a weird shape and size compared to what we've got. And like I said before, these were just garbage back then. There was no reason for anyone to keep this. Maybe it was someone's first vehicle. They were very proud of it, so it ended up getting saved. In any case, I wish I knew, but I'm just glad that I have the chance to preserve something like this, and I'm really glad I get the chance to show you guys what it looks like, because I didn't even know what it was when I first saw it. I had to look it up, and it's so hard to find pictures or info about these things. I've also got, here's a modern Alberta plate. Now, this one obviously expired in 09, but they haven't changed. This is exactly how they still make them. And you can see they're a little, well, they're a fair amount bigger. Even though this isn't actually very heavy metal on this, it's still heavier than this. And also, so anyone wondering what an Alberta plate looks like, whoop, that's what it looks like. I've also got an example of a motorcycle license plate here from Alberta. Taller and narrower. So yeah, this is a real odd size. This is almost more like what you see in Europe nowadays, except add, like, you know, room for a few more digits. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about this thing, I don't know what they'd be, but, you know, it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this stuff. And leave a comment, and like and subscribe.